In theory, Wolverine should be one of the two real A-list heroes, solo heroes in the Marvel Comics universe, standing up there with Spider-Man, just as far as a character that can actually at one time carry a couple of solo books on his own. That has not really been the case as of late. It's been quite some time. There's been so much stuff done to Wolverine as of late. I think the transformation from really cool original Wolverine to Dad-Verine, where he wants to be like the mentor for every young female character in the entire Marvel Comics universe, has not been good for the character. And certainly the enormous amounts of variance. We're talking clones, we're talking children, alternate versions from all the multiverses have watered down Wolverine almost completely to where he can barely hold his own solo title anymore. It's been an enormous fall from grace. Obviously, they did try to put the character on ice. They killed him off. Sealed him in adamantium. How did he get out of that? I don't think Marvel Comics ever even attempted to explain how he got out of adamantium, but it happened, and they had to bring him back because all these other faux versions of Wolverine, whether they call them Wolverine or not, they never end up working. Obviously, the big one is X-23, Laura Kinney. How many versions of X-23 are out there when you look at the multiverse? I think there's like 5 different versions that we know of. They're always trying to get her over as the new Wolverine or all new Wolverine, and it never ever works. They have to bring him back, and every time they do that, it just kind of waters the character down more and more and more. We have so many different Girl-Verine versions of this character at this point. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we are getting the Gwen-verse treatment for Wolverine. Apparently, there's going to be a Wolvie-verse or something like that, where all the different versions of Wolverine get together and do some type of adventure. I remember really thinking Avengers Forever was fucking outstanding. It was so cool to get like the best versions of the heroes, like from different versions of time, and putting them together and having the super team. But man, Marvel just destroyed this concept. And now we just get stupid fake versions of characters all getting together and doing absolutely nothing. And obviously this one, the big news coming out of this new Wolvieverse is we're not going to get a clone. We're not going to get a daughter. We're just going to get a girl version of James Howlett. A girl version of Wolverine. Jane Howlett, a gender flip take on Wolverine's birth name of James Howlett, will join other Wolverine variants like Wolverine from Age of Apocalypse and Old Man Logan in a saga that will tear through the mutant multiverse. The introduction of Jane Howlett of Earth 1281 in Weapon X-Men is incredibly exciting because it seems like she is the first official female variant of James Howlett's Wolverine. The cover also hints that Jane could be taking a leadership role on the bold new team. Finally, it's not a clone of Wolverine that's a girl. It's not a daughter of Wolverine, obviously, that's a girl. We're going to get the real Wolverine from another multiverse that was born with a vagina. Woo! There's spec value, guys. Like who gets excited for this? Apparently, the people at Screen Rant do, but it's just so tired at this point. How many different versions of Girl-Verine do we need to have? Like I said, there's like 5 versions of X-23 out there already. The character that supposedly is really hot and really popular but can't carry a solo book. We've got Scout, another daughter of Wolverine, not a clone. That one's actually a daughter. We've got Rain out there. We've got Yoshida, the Japanese daughter of Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, I think. We've got Wild Thing. We've got Torrent. There are so many different versions of Girl Wolverine out there. It's not like this is a new concept or you've done something groundbreaking. You're just doing the same thing that hasn't worked over and over again. And they've been doing this to all their heroes. Remember when they had United States of Captain America? And everywhere they went, there was like an unofficial version of Captain America in that town or in that like hobo outpost where they were supposed to be like the Captain America of the railroads. And every time you do this to the characters, you just fucking water them down to nothing. You know, even Spider-Man at this point, it's like Spider-Verse was cool, I guess, when it was first introduced. But how many versions of Spider-Man are there? Peter Parker is not unique. Peter Parker is not special because every other multiverse out there has like 50 versions of Peter Parker. There's like infinite fucking Parkers out there. Same thing with Spider-Gwen or whatever her name, Gwen-verse. Like that character was just variant covers. And they sold well, so they created a Gwen-verse. We have all these different versions of Gwen. And it's like, why? None of these things end up selling. They're all miniseries when they come out. And nobody's really all that interested. And you're watering down yet another like A-list character. You don't have many characters that are actually A-list. Marvel doesn't have enough characters that can carry a solo series, let alone multiple solo series. And I don't think at this point, even with good writers on it, that Wolverine could carry multiple comic book series on his own because of all the damage that's been done to the character over the last 10 to 15 years, where they've taken everything cool about him and just stripped it out of him. And he's just like as lame as all the other fucking heroes out there. And wow, are you excited for Girl-Verine? Wait, were you excited for Girl-Verine the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, or the fifth time? What is this, the seventh or eighth time we've got Girl-Verine in the Marvel Comics universe? And she's going to be a hero. On the Weapon X-Men team is a bunch of different versions of Wolverine get together to do stuff. Oh, well, Zombie Wolverine's going to be in there, so we better get it on. It's just, I wish they would come up with better ideas. And I understand that experimentation is cool. Telling what-if stories can be a whole lot of fun when your shit is working, when your characters are over, where Wolverine is as popular as ever. Yeah, it's time to do a team up of fucking different versions of Wolverine just to get it out there because the character's popular. But he's not really popular right now. X-Men isn't popular right now because there's been so much mediocrity and there's so much watering down of the characters that Marvel really should be taking these kind of chances. They should be putting all of their focus and efforts into getting all the characters that they fucked up over the last 8 years or so right again. Most of them can't even hold a candle to the sales that they had in the past. Now, there are a couple of them here and there that are doing better than they were or doing as well. You know, Incredible Hulk seems to have had a nice renaissance. Venom certainly has had a good showing as of late. Moon Knight, maybe. We'll see what happens with the Vengeance of the Moon Knight. But there are so many mainstay characters that should be flagships for Marvel Comics, like Wolverine, Captain America, Iron Man, that just cannot do sales anymore because of stupid shit like this. Wolverine is getting his own Across the Spider-Verse style adventure in an all-new miniseries coming in 2024. Following the success of Spider-Man Spider-Verse franchise, several Marvel characters have embarked on their own variant teams. Some more recent examples include Spider-Gwen getting her Gwenverse, and even Wolverine's rival Sabretooth teasing a Sabreverse at the end of his Exiles run. Now it's time for Wolverine to embark on his own team to shred through the mutant multiverse in Weapon X-Men #1, written by Christos Gage with art by Yildirim Cinar. And I like Christos Gage. He's actually one of my favorite writers. Well, favorite might be an overstatement, but he's one of those writers that I really trust. And when his name is on a book, I certainly go out there and read it. But I just don't see this being very interesting. If I hear it's really bad, maybe Doc and I will review it. But this just doesn't do anything for me. And I feel bad for Christos Gage because he deserves better than this. He deserves a crack at actually being something somewhat important. But apparently Marvel has just decided he's fucking Dan Slott's ghostwriter. And then they let him have something like this that's just completely inconsequential every once in a while, where you have so many bad writers on all the good books, or what should be the important books throughout the Marvel Comics universe. And Yildirim Cinar is a pretty decent artist. This is probably a decent project for him, but you know, the Wolviverse, like I don't even understand why they keep doing this. Like, wow, we've got the Sabreverse, which is apparently going to be a big deal in the Wolverine versus Sabretooth war, or whatever that thing is going to be in Ben Percy's, I guess, conclusion to his Wolverine and X-Men run that he's been doing. And why would you water down Sabretooth? Like, is Sabretooth that interesting? Was anyone reading Sabretooth in the Exiles? Maybe that's an indication that these kind of ideas just don't work out long term. It kind of kills interest in these characters. And certainly a character like Sabretooth, could he really afford to have less interest than he already does? Where does he even feel like the main adversary to Wolverine? Does he feel like the nemesis to Wolverine? It doesn't really feel like that anymore, and he certainly should be, because Sabretooth is an absolute awesome character. But that's what happens when you give a character like Sabretooth to Victor Laval. And, you know, he doesn't want to talk about Sabretooth or write a story about him. It's all about how the American prison system is stupid or something like that. You won't get that out of Christos Gage because he's a good writer. Does anybody else get the feeling that this is almost confirming that Dan Slott is in fact coming over to the X-Men office? Obviously, this is coming in 2024, probably March or later when Tom Brevoort takes over, and we'll have the relaunch of the X-Men. And we all know that Christos Gage ends up having to write all of Dan Slott's books for him, because he can't keep up with like a 1 book a month schedule because he's a complete bonehead. So I would imagine, yeah, let's give you some X-Men work, get you ready so you can write all of Dan Slott's books for him. That's probably what's going on here. I don't know if you're excited for a Wolverine verse and a team up of different versions of Wolverine. You could definitely get a worse writer and artist on the book. but I just wish they would do something more meaningful with Wolverine. There's got to be a story to tell with Wolverine that's somewhat original, somewhat unique, actually kind of fits the character. They're doing the same thing with Wolverine that they're doing with every other character out there, which makes them all seem meaningless and completely unimportant. Remember when Wolverine was the only one that had the old man, like little fucking gimmick to him? You had old man Logan, that was it. Well, now you've got old man Hawkeye, and you got old girl Wolverine, and you got old man Star-Lord, and everyone's got an old man story, and it just kind of takes the uniqueness away and lets everyone know that it's not because Wolverine was special that he had that story and that was really cool. It's just that they hadn't discovered the gimmick yet. And it's just, I don't know, it's disappointing. Marvel promises that this upcoming series will be spinning straight out of Gage and Greg Land's original X-Men #1, a supersized 60th anniversary one-shot commemorating when the X-Men first landed on comic book stands across the world. The Phoenix recruits Professor X's original team to fix a time-displaced issue, which will turn into a multiverse issue going to Wolverine's 4-part series. Wolverines from across the multiverse will have to team up to face someone who even the Phoenix fears. Readers can look forward to appearances from Wolverine from Age of Apocalypse, Zombie Wolverine, and Marvel Zombies Wolverine from Earth X, and Old Man Logan. So yeah, we'll be getting appearances from a lot of different variants and different versions of Wolverine as he gets together to fight somebody that even the Phoenix can't take care of. It's just supposed to be a fun little story, but I just don't think there's room for fun little like throwaway stories. There's so many good Marvel characters that could use good writing on them and maybe instill a little bit of goodwill from the readership themselves to actually start reading the books. You know, you can only, depend on variant cover schemes, and I imagine that's one of the reasons that they pitched this book, is because you will get a lot of variant covers of the different versions of Wolverine throughout the multiverse and obviously throughout time that we've seen on Earth 616, and that's probably one of the reasons that this was even greenlit. There's only so much spec value related with Jane Howlett and whatever girl version of Wolverine you decide to introduce this week before people realize that it's just a gimmick and there's no long-term investment in any of this stuff because none of these characters that you're introducing are meaningful and they will never have a part to play in the bigger scheme of anything because they're kind of just throwaway from the moment that they showed up. And I think that kind of cynicism has definitely leaked into the speculator market, the collector market. I don't know. This is what Marvel Comics is. Certainly it has been in 2023, and it sounds like it's what they're going to be in 2024, where it's an endless reasons to give you #1 issues and variant covers and water down their characters and make them not special anymore. Which major hero at Marvel Comics have we not seen at least one female variant of them? Like, it's basically across the board. How many characters at Marvel do we need to see that there's 80 different versions of that hero throughout the multiverse, and the one that we're reading about isn't special? There's nothing unique about them because they exist essentially everywhere all at the exact same time, and I think they have devalued a lot of their heroes to such a degree with the minds of comic book readers that stuff like this does not pique an interest all that much anymore. And we'll see what happens. But if you're interested in Weapon X-Men #1 and the entire series, you might want to check out that one shot as well, because apparently that will be leading into this. It certainly made me less interested in original Wolverine. Like, once I read this, I was like, oh, God. They created a one shot to create a miniseries. And it feels like the most Marvel thing in the history of the world. If you are also struggling with the cynicism of keeping up with comic books and there's not a whole lot of great news, I am there with you, and we should do this together. And I want you to stick around on comic books and look for the good things that you can find. In fact, every single Thursday, we do this early. Jim and I talk about all the major releases from Marvel, DC on the indie book scene. And we talk about the stuff you should definitely be reading, the stuff you should be avoiding, the stuff that's kind of in the middle. Maybe if you're a fan of that character, maybe that will be the story for you. And it's exclusive on the Patreon, along with a couple other podcasts with Aaron Sparrow and Doc, some of my good friends. We got some more stuff coming out in 2024. If you have not checked out the Patreon, I think there's a good chance there's some stuff there that you will absolutely like. Definitely check out the link in the video description.